Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for, I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say it. This is the high point of the Knicks Film School Podcast thus far. It has never been better than this. I have never been more excited to introduce an episode than this. And that is not just because I feel a deep personal and spiritual connection to the man I'm about to introduce, but because, man, if it gets any better as a Knicks fan, I can't imagine it. Because this right here, it feels like the top of the mountain. My co-host, the man who has been with me on this journey. It has been a journey. And we have arrived at the mountaintop of the 4 seed, because clearly that's the goal in the NBA, right? That is to make it. It's the goal. It's to make it to the 4 seed. Jeremy Cohen. Hello, Jeremy.
Hello, John. Yeah, we could just pack it up. You know,
can we just
stop the count, end the seaon?
Actually,
we can just go home.
Can they? What happens when you fold up a league? Let's end the NBA right now. Yeah,
I mean, it's basically, to me also. Other leagues, it's kind of like there aren't playoffs. You just get to that point. So if we just change the parameters from, say, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago to now,
yes,
and then just use that segment, the Knicks are the best team in the NBA for the entire season, and just end it. So
I think we should listen. Any and all rule changes to make this feeling last for as long as possible, because I have a few words that I want to say about this team, but I'll turn it to you first. Have you felt like this before as a Knicks fan? Because I have not, and I think that I want to preface that by saying that maybe a reflection of the fact that I haven't always been pouring hours upon hours into producing content about this team. So I'm not saying that this is the best it has ever been in my close to 30 years of being a Knicks fan, but I have never felt this way about this team. Where are you at?
So last week I opened up our pod by saying that I was on cloud 9, and clearly that was a week premature, because right now I am on literally cloud 9 as a result. It is both frightening and wonderful how much of my happiness is tied to a basketball team that wouldn't know if I died tomorrow or not. It's just it's so exciting to witness all of this, because, with the Melo era, there were absolutely moments, but there was this sort of, it didn't feel like it was building to something, right? Yeah. It felt like, okay, this is the roster we've got, and it's really good. Hopefully it can go far in the playoffs. And we know about the Heat and how the Knicks were 3-1 in that 2012-13 season. And, against Indiana, all these things, but for putting the playoffs aside for just a moment, the expectation was this is going to be a team that can do well. And this year, considering how we were bracing for, top 5, top 10 pick, something in that range.
We had a conversation about there was literally nothing they could do in free agency that would cause them to be anything other than a bottom 5 team. We had that conversation on this podcast. Yeah. We were like, Fred VanVleet, doesn't matter. They're still going to be one of the 5 worst teams.
Right. And now we're rolling with a team that, is doing, it's overachieving to such a degree. I mean, I was looking through some stats because why not? Right. So since acquiring Derrick Rose, the Knicks have the 17th best offense, according to Cleaning the Glass, which takes out garbage time, which is still a step up from what they were beforehand. But the
24th, 25th, like that. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. But the Knicks have the number 1 defense in that span. Number 1 overall, which, I mean, with Rose on the court, they are a plus 10.4 in differential of points per 100. That's the 94th percentile.
Can I say something real quick about that? Because I did a newsletter last week, not to get off topic, but Rose is not a good defensive player. We could comfortably say that. But the man knows exactly, this is his 3rd go around with this coach. He knows what you need to do to function in this defense. And I don't think we give nearly enough credit to that. I just wanted to say that real quick.
Exactly. He knows the spots to be in. He knows the system. He can adapt well. Yes, he's not a good defender necessarily, but he can do things enough to be passable. Yeah. And the players around him have achieved so well that it all gels together. And the Knicks are not shooting well at the rim. They're 28th in shooting at the rim since getting Rose, and they're hitting a ton of non-corner threes and threes in general. But what really also stood out to me was if you have Randle on the court, the Knicks play like a 49-win team. for an 82 game stretch. But with Randle off, the Knicks are playing like a 39 win team. And the reason that stands out to me is because the fact that this team without Randle would play at a 39 win pace shows how incredible the job they are all doing. If you just took the Rose segment in terms of how they've played, they'd be a 53 win team for an 82 game season. And all of this, again, like I know we rag on him, but having a point guard like Elfrid Payton in the lineup and being able to overcome his shortcomings and still look like a 53 win team for what would be an 82 game stretch, that to me is just miraculous. So I don't know. I don't think I felt this way ever in terms of a team where expectations were all the way down here and they're performing all the way up here.
You started off because this is because you're Brock Aller, right? Your mind works a certain way. It's always about team. It's about the team building, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the World Wide West. I go on feel. Just take your advanced stats, salary cap. What is that? I don't even know what it is.
You got to take your sweatshirt off, though. If we're on camera, you've got to start showing your bare chest.
That's where this is leading to. Me getting changed to the Zoom meeting.
This is actually your OnlyFans now. It is. It's all connected.
You couldn't even of this episode of all episodes. You go off the rails in the first 10 minutes. This
you know
is
why?
What's happening.
Because as the Knicks grow, so do we, and we've got to let the audience know that this is what they're in for. They're in for Jonathan Macri OnlyFans collaboration with KFS. But continue, please.
As I try to recompose myself, I'm Wes because I go on feel. You talk about the logical reasons why this is the best you've ever felt as a Knicks fan. For me, I think that's how this whole season has started out. And now so at some point in the last several days, it has morphed into one of those, like, I mean, I don't know what else, like an insanity moment, or a little before your time, a 99 playoffs run, where it feels like, I used the word last week. It feels like magic. There is something in the air. There is it's a sense of like destiny. Like these are the times why we root for sports, why we root for teams, why we watch sports. I was thinking about this and I promise I won't go too far off the rails, but like I did my first ever, it wasn't a live stream. I recorded because I didn't know how to go like live on the internet and have it be on Twitter. So I talked on my phone for 2 minutes and 20 seconds and then sent it out after a game. The first time I ever did one of those was after it was the first game after the All-Star break in the 2017-18 season. They had beaten the Magic 120 to 113. Starring that night was Tim Hardaway Jr., Trey Burke had 26 off the bench. There was a Lance Thomas sighting. Kyle O'Quinn had a nice game. Michael Beasley, Emmanuel Mudiay, big 8 points from Manny. Cantor, of course, had a double. And I went and I was like so pumped up to talk about that game and that team and being like, okay, it's all right. Porzingis went down. It's going to be fine. We got things are heading in the right direction. Fast forward, to a year, and then it's the 17 win year. And that's when really this podcast started in earnest. And you would join me in the beginning for post games, right? And we would get on there and we would talk about 25-point losses of like, okay, but you know what? There was that 3-minute stretch there in the third quarter. I know they were down by 40, but like Frank had a really nice, and this is how we would subsist. And then the summer happened in 2019 where we thought, oh my God, we're the ultimate losers. And then last season happened, and last season was, how did we, I'm thinking back, like, I'm actually going to ask you this. How did we do? We were positive. We didn't get on here and bitch and moan and complain every time we recorded a show. We were like, okay, there's still good stuff. And looking back, like, oh my God, that was not a fun time. That was not a fun season. And now to think back on that, and now we're to be expected to continue to podcast and write and talk about this team. I'm genuinely intimidated. Like I haven't been sleeping well the last few nights because I'm like, oh my God, we have to now write about a good basketball team and talk about a good basketball team. How does one do this? I don't know. So I needed to get that out because it's been quite a week. It's been quite a week. It's been quite a few weeks, and I'm not complaining because I've waited for this. I feel like we've all waited for this our whole lives, but man, it's been a good time. It's been a good time.
Sure has.
All right, let's talk about the week that was. They won, what do you know, all of their games for yet another week. So beat the Hornets, beat the Hawks, and then, of course, on Saturday, beat the Raptors. For anybody living under a rock, this is 9 straight wins for the Knicks. They play again on Monday where they play the Phoenix Suns. There has, over the last several days, I think it probably started last Monday and it continued through the week, and I'm sure it's going to continue into this week. A lot of national media love now for this team. People who were not getting on the internet and talking about Emmanuel Mudiay for a team that lost won 5 of its last 17 games. People are excited about it. How I kind of said during the locker room on Saturday that I was like, I don't know. I'm iffy. I feel I know it's good for the brand and it's good for the team. But personally, when I see everybody trying to jump on the bandwagon, I'm like, not loving it. How do you feel about all the love we're getting?
Yeah, I go back and forth on it. I think I said something maybe on the post game for the Hornets where it's just like the idea of the more the merrier, but it's also there is a gatekeeping mentality of, okay, well, for the better part of 20 years, people were just absolutely shitting on this team right and left with no regard for human life. From the Knicks standpoint, or at least our fans' standpoint, just using us as the proverbial punching bag, dumping ground for what this team is. And so there's this kind of idea in my mind of why should we let, some organization like ESPN, when on draft night they take the Joker and paint him in Knicks colors, and with the tears streaking down his face. Like, why is it we should let these entities that have hurt us come back and be like, hey, look at the job you guys are doing, when the whole idea should maybe be like, fuck you. We were trying to just live our lives and you guys just had to get your kicks off and get your jokes off. So I do go back and forth. I think I get a sense of real joy when I see like random haters here and there tweeting about something, and there's an army of Knicks fans quote tweeting and just slandering this person to death. And it feels like some sort of conquest at each time. Like because
the receipts are always there. The receipts are always there.
Every time. Yeah. So, and the goalposts keep moving for this team, apparently, for people that hate the Knicks. So I've also gone to the NBA subreddit to see what's going on. And all of the celebratory Knicks posts are just Knicks fans celebrating. It's not really other people being like, oh, hey, wow, you guys are doing a great job. We were totally wrong about you. It's just Knicks fans being like, the league isn't ready for us. And they aren't. The league is not ready for us. But I don't know. Yeah, long story short, I go back and forth on it. But I guess I don't know. The fact that the Knicks are winning, I'm kind of just like, you know what? We're the ones who are celebrating this. So like, we're just going to be happy about it, and you can do you, but the wins are the most important part.
I think the national media stuff bothers me less than people who purport to be fans or have been fans of this team at one time and then got into content creation and basically just jump ship because they're like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go pay attention to other stuff that doesn't cause me pain. But at the same time, like, it just hit me. That's what bugs me. Like, you don't get to enjoy this now. You left. You went away. Like, we've been through the muck, putting it politely. So, and look, again, it is what it is. It's fine. I'm not begrudging anybody their choices, but that's the part that irks me a little bit. One thing that it was nice to hear was Julius Randle go on the Adrian Wojnarowski podcast this week, because it's good for him. And if it's good for him, that's great for everything, because we love Julius Randle here, because he is now a legitimate. Well, actually, I want to ask you about this. I'm going to put this on the newsletter for Monday, and I'm not sure. What is your definition of an MVP candidate?
I hate the MVP award because I think it should be split up into two things. I think it should be the best player in the NBA and the player who is most valuable to their team.
Okay.
And, I think that at this point, Randle, especially if the Knicks finish with a top 4 seed, top 4 record, that he absolutely deserves to be in that conversation of MVP.
Okay, hold on. I gotta stop you. That's what I'm okay. Because we hear that phrase over and over again. He deserves to be in the conversation. What does that mean? Does that mean like because there are no more than 2 or 3 players every year who can actually win the MVP coming down the home stretch, and Randle's not going to win the MVP. He's not, in that sense, he is not an actual candidate. He is not going to win the award. But I agree with you. He should be in the conversation. And I'm just like, what does that mean? And there is no answer to it. Pontificating here.
To me, what it means is kind of, you get 5 votes, correct? In the MVP award.
5-man ballot. Yes.
Right. So if you are being considered for even like a 5th place vote, if you are on at the end of the year, if you are listed as someone who received an MVP vote, and it's not just some ridiculous thing like, oh yeah, here, this player just totally wasn't deserving, but we'll give it to him anyway. That to me is what I mean by in the conversation, where he's not a contender to win the award. I think Jokic should win it hands down.
Yep.
But the fact is that because of what Randle's been doing, I think he's deserving of someone saying like, hey, Randle's doing he's doing this well. He deserves to finish 5th, 4th, even if it's 1 or 2 votes. That to me gets you into the conversation, and it all builds on itself. Because now if we're talking about Julius Randle, who received an MVP vote, even 1 vote, that's a lot more than a whole lot of the NBA, because I think it really only happens for maybe 10 to 15 guys in total, depending on how
there are years where it's as little. I think there have been years where it is as little as 9, maybe 10. And then there are some years where it gets up to like 13 guys. Right. So it's in that vicinity, but you could tell there's and I know you've done this as much as I have because we're both insane people. When you go through the MVP voting year after year, you could see there's usually a solid, a top 6, top 7 of guys that really get appear on a goodly number of ballots. And I feel like that's where Randle has nudged himself into for this season. Not saying he's in the top 6 or 7 or 8 players in the league when healthy and everything is good, but that's not the year we're living in, is it? But at the same time, who's to say he can't get there, which is the other side of this coin, right?
And I know I mentioned this last year, but again, I think it's since 1990, every single year, the NBA champion has had at least 1 player finish in the top 8.
Yep.
Every single time, except for twice, both times featuring Kawhi Leonard. The Spurs, when they won, when he was the finals MVP, and the Raptors, when he sat out a bunch of games because of, rest and injury maintenance and whatever you want to call it. So finishing with that type of record, that's why to me it's so important. It's not just some arbitrary number. It's showing that you can have a legitimate elite season, because to me, Randle is not currently an elite player, but he's having what I think you can safely say is pretty close to an elite season, especially when you consider where he was. He's got to maintain that. I would hope he even builds on that as well. But the point being that if you cobble enough of these seasons together, then you are talking about a completely different player. Because I saw some random sort of Twitter poll that was about where do you see Julius Randle, and I don't think that's the best way of analyzing it, because a ton of Knicks fans could always hop into it and just say he's a top 15 player if they really want to. But the idea of if he plays like this next year, where are we slotting him in? Because if he's playing like this, it seems like it's a legitimate, consistent season, or at least a trajectory. And if that's the case, how much better can he get? Because he's only now just entering his prime. So then if we're talking about someone who is in the conversation, quote unquote, for MVP this year, and doing what, basically performing at this level or higher next year, then we are starting to talk about a player who could be top 15, knocking on the door of top 10, room to grow. I mean, the sky can be the limit in so many ways. And putting that case together is then how you can maybe enter, say, 2022. Say, look what we've got. We've got Julius Randle. We've got RJ Barrett. We've got all of this. And we'll get to that eventually. But
all that's on Julius the table.
Right. It all matters. Everything that we see right now, and a big reason why he went on the Woj pod, I'm certain, is because it is a media-based award for all NBA. The media votes him in. And so by being open, he did this for the All-Star game as well. By being open to, that was for players when they wanted to vote him in, and the media too, showing that you are willing to help scratch someone's back by giving them content, they will return the favor. And this is why Randle is going out of his way to be on the Woj pod, because he knows there's a big audience. He wants those votes, and I don't blame him. I would do the same exact thing of marketing yourself. But I think it's just something important to remember, because this narrative can push you in the way you want it to go if you go into it. You know, it's like a current. Don't go against the current. Go with it.
I love it. Also, kudos to the Knicks and the people running the Knicks for perhaps facilitating this media tour, because Julius Randle came here and he was a guy who got essentially a 1-year, $9 million contract from the Pelicans. And in a summer where like everybody was spending money, he got 2 guaranteed years from the Knicks. That was the most that he could get. And you've talked about this more than anybody, as far as I know. The notion that players can feel like they could come to this organization and increase their brand is a massive one. And the Woj pod stuff and all that goes with that all goes into that. So yes, 100%. I do so the reason I brought up the Woj pod was to talk specifically about a question that was raised on Saturday's Locker Room. But last thing before we get there, I will say what he is doing, and the notion that this can continue, because if he continues at this level, he's a top 7 or 8 player in the league. Like I don't even think that's controversial. If he shoots it at this level and the shots that he's taking continue at this level of efficiency, and he's facilitating at this, like he's a top, I don't know, 7, 8, whatever player,
and defending at a high level,
and defending at a high level. Like the 4 names that I was going through the last 30 years, which I won't go past because it's all I've been watching. Like Isaiah Thomas jumped into the top. He was like the 6th best player in the league that 1 year. Now, I'm talking about Isaiah Thomas, Celtics Isaiah Thomas. But he was a tiny guard, and that felt like lightning in a bottle at the time. It didn't feel sustainable. So, and he was the last pick in the draft. Randle always had this pedigree. I thought of Oladipo, who I think may be the best comp, but of course it fell off the next season and he got injured. And then the other 2, which I feel like Randle is almost a combination of these guys, Steve Nash and Chauncey Billups. If this continues, because Nash obviously was more the regular season and he won the back-to-back MVPs, which was, insane. But that was more like a mix of a play style and a player and a coach. And he didn't transform his game. He just found the coach that was like, oh yeah, give me that guy. I'll do the best with him. And then there's Billups, who had some really high MVP finishes, by the way, made some all NBA second teams. He was good. But he really turns it on in the playoffs. And it was like, so I don't know. That's the area I'm in. The question, of course, raised on the Woj pods, and I want to give credit. Joshua Richards brought this up on the Locker Room. So Randle, for anybody who hasn't heard it, told a story about he was having a rough night last season. Things were not going well. And he called his agent, Aaron Mintz, went to dinner, and who showed up before they were running the Knicks? Leon Rose, Worldwide West, and he was still coaching in Kentucky, it would seem, Kenny Payne. And they all had dinner together, and also there, by the way, was Elfrid Payton, notable. And they basically, it was like a pick-me-up dinner. And shortly thereafter, Rose was hired to run the team, and he hired Wes, and they went through the summer. Ostensibly, all of them knew about the work that Julius Randle was putting in the summer. Training camp then happens. This was not part of the story. I'm adding this as context. Training camp happens. He meets Thibodeau. We've heard Thibodeau talk this week about how he could tell as soon as training camp started. He's like, I knew this guy was a worker. I knew I could get behind him. Match made in heaven. Let's go. Okay, great. After that initial, sorry, maybe not training camp, the bubble camp that they had, whatever. After that, there's the draft. And then they pick, with the 8th pick in the draft, Obi Toppin, who is a power forward. Joshua asked, and I really couldn't give him a good answer, so I'll turn it to you. Like, how does that how do you make heads of tails of that? If you have this team of people who is clearly close to Randle and who clearly believed in Randle running the team, why would they still have picked Toppin 8th? And there's a lot of answers. I don't know that I've thought of a particularly good one, so I'll turn it to you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've thought the idea of the Knicks just didn't see Randle as a future piece. So here's Obi Toppin, and we can develop him and always shop Randle. But now I'm also wondering, what if the Knicks basically said, this is a weird draft year. There's a lot we don't know. We can't bring in a lot of people. We know that we've got the Naismith winner of collegiate basketball from this previous season in Obi Toppin.
Runaway winner. Right.
Clearly. Just incredible season. We know that Rick Brunson, Leon's very close friend, his first client, is working with Obi. We know that Sam Rose, Leon's son, is managing or representing him. All of these things, I think all of it plays in. But I think the other point is that the Knicks could have said, we also need depth. We want guys who are gym rats, because that's what we keep hearing, right? Yep. And we keep seeing these players where after games, they're still shooting. They're still trying to elevate their games. On off days, they're wondering, should we go into the practice facility or not? And some even show up.
What blackout? Right. There's no blackout days here.
No, it's a trap. Tibbs was testing them. So, considering all these things, and that's obviously a huge part, the mental capacity, the mental aspects we can evaluate. And I think the Knicks probably said, this is a guy who is clearly talented, who we think has the dedication and the poise to grow into a good piece. If that happens and we can keep Randle, then we've got a great trade piece on a rookie contract. If he develops into something more and we keep him, then we've got 48 minutes of great basketball at the 4. The idea then of, if we can have Mitch and Noel, we've got 48 minutes of great basketball at the 5. So, really trying to get deeper at these positions and still having your money for someone who can be a point guard or maybe fill in at the 2, all those things. So yes, I think that obviously it would make more sense to, if you're going to trade up, obviously the Cavs wanted Okoro, but that type of thing where if you wanted that type of player, or if you wanted to go in on LaMelo Ball to really try to answer that question of who are we going to get to run our offense?
Which they could have done that. We don't know what the cost really was. We don't.
Right. But so this idea of, Randle's out the door, so that's why you're bringing Obi in. In hindsight, maybe that was an incorrect one by us to think about. Maybe we should have been thinking more about just like, how deep can this team get? How much talent can the team add? If they see Obi Toppin as the best player available right now, and within the next few years or even longer than that, then that is a wise long-term play. And when you look at the 8th pick in the draft, I know a lot of people want to think like, oh, well, you've got to get a star there.
You got to get, and it has to hit now. It has to make sense right now.
Right. Yes. But when you look at that pick, especially, but also that range, the higher outcome is a rotation player. It really is. It's not necessarily a star. It's not necessarily even a starter. In this draft specifically, that is what we were told by every draft expert who knows a lot more than what they're talking about than we do, that after those first three had star potential, high bust potential, but star potential. After those 3, you were just get yourself a guy who could give you 20 quality minutes a night. That's what we were told. Yes. And just going back in history, if you look at after picks 1 through 5, there's a drop off for 6 to 10, and there's a drop off after that too. It's not to say, of course, that you can't find great talent after 5. Obviously you can. It's just, it's slimmer. The odds are really diminished after that, unless we're talking about an absolutely loaded draft class. And, that was not one, at least at how it was built. So I think, just to kind of wrap this up with a pretty little bow on top, the idea of Obi being there, it could just benefit everyone where he is talented. You can maybe make him a little bit more versatile if you want to try to play him at the 5 eventually, being able to figure something out where it works together. And he's shown that he's willing to learn. He's certainly performing better. I know we'll talk about him a little bit later, but just that mindset of best player available, they took him, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's probably a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, a little bit of column C, a little column D, where this was a decision based on a number of factors, as opposed to like, that's, we all have had jobs where your decision-making process is not nearly as neat or linear as people who don't do your job every day think that it often is. So I do not think this was them sitting in a room like, okay, let's decide right now. Is Julius Randle going to turn into an all-NBA player or is he not? Because if he's not, then we have to draft this kid. If he is, then that's not how this went. So I think it's an interesting conversation point. I'm happy we talked about it, but I think realistically, like you said, they saw a kid who was high floor and knew would fit into what I think was what they felt was the most important part of what they needed to do with this team, which is, again, repeating ourselves. We said this every week, the culture, right? The culture. Got to get the culture right. Everything flows from the culture. They knew that part with him would fit. And, and now who's to say that if they had traded up for, like, this may sound insane, but like, who's to say if they had traded up for LaMelo Ball, who comes with a lot of fanfare, a lot of like, yes, would it be nice to have LaMelo Ball on this team? But like, again, this gets back to the thing I said at the beginning. There's a magic about it. There's something in the water where I am not putting it past anyone in terms of like how much thought went into constructing just such a roster where guys blended a certain way. So we love you, Obi Toppin. That's the moral of the story. Okay.
Can I quickly run something by you before we move on to the next topic?
Yes.
So as I was listening to the Woj pod and I heard Randle saying about the time they had dinner and Kenny Payne was there, it got me thinking, when was this? And he helped basically he pinpointed it, right? He said that Kentucky was in town. So I looked at the schedule and sure enough, that was when Kentucky played Michigan State on, I want to say November 5th. And Tyrese Maxey went off. It was, all exciting. But I was curious, like, okay, well, when would they have had dinner? When would this have really been that low point? And I think I pinpointed it to on November 3rd when the Knicks were just destroyed at home by the Kings. Randle had a terrible game. The Knicks moved to 1-6. Yeah, the final score was 113-92.
They had their fucking ass handed to them that night.
Yes, it was a really rough game. I know you. Well, we all remember, sure. But so things clearly weren't going well, and they had this dinner. And so my theory is this: Leon Rose talked to James Dolan because we know that CAA and Dolan have had a relationship for years. He told him about what's going on, how his star is feeling, how Alfred Payton is feeling, just maybe the kind of collective ideas of where the team is at. And he relayed that to Dolan.
And Dolan was like, fine, you fucking do
it. Well, I'm getting there. So the game was November 3rd. Let's say they had dinner after or whatever.
Yes.
November 10th is when that press conference.
The press conference.
Right. And so then, yes, the Knicks keep losing. And then I'm thinking like, what if Dolan, knowing all of this, is like, well, Leon, you clearly have a relationship with the guys. You've been around CAA. Would you want to do this? And Leon was like, you know what? Let's do it. Or Leon was scheming to get this role and it worked out. Is that so crazy to think about?
No, that's actually the least crazy thing you've ever said on this podcast. Because, man. Okay, I don't want to give James Dolan too much credit. But trotting those poor souls out there, he had to know that was not going to help things. That was not a smart move. It was not, like, nothing good was going to come of that. And it would make a little bit more sense if he had spoken to Rose and already had it in his mind, like, fuck all these people. I don't even give a shit anymore. And then when they lost the game that they lost to, it was the Cavs, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, you know what?
Get out there.
Get out there, or it's Fizdale's ass. Man.
And then they pushed Fizdale in front of the bus to try to save themselves, get a new coach. Things progressed well, but it was too late. It was already signed, sealed, and delivered.
Things went from, we're not the complete and utter like bottom of the league anymore to like whatever is above that. Okay. Wow. I think this might be you saved your best for when the Knicks are at their best. That's a lot. I respect.
We just elevate each other's play. What can I say?
Man, I'm genuinely, I'm like in awe of that. You figured that out. That's really good. Okay. Kudos.
Thank you.
Yes, nice clap. Okay, let's let's move. We've a lot to get to, and we'll try to do this quickly. So, playoff race. We should talk briefly. The Knicks only play 2 games before we talk again. 2. How about that? They play Phoenix. And this is the end of their homestand, and then they go out west for 6 games. They play Phoenix and they play Chicago. By the way, I thought it was interesting. Do you know that I went because again, I have many issues. I stayed up as I was falling asleep or going to bed last night. I stayed up and I looked through all 70 whatever Knicks seasons to see how many winning streaks and I'm sure there's a way to search for this, but I wanted to look through every season. And I went to look through all of their longest winning streaks. Do you know that twice in the last, I think, twice in the last 20 something years or 30 years, they have had 9-game winning streaks ended by the Suns?
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Exactly 9-game winning streaks ended by the Suns. It's happened twice. So store that away. And if they do lose to the Suns, everybody could blame me. Second,
dread it, run from it.
Yes, there you go. Second thing, do you know who, so the most recent longest winning streak, that the Knicks had, you've probably looked this up, but it was 13 straight, at the end of the 2012-13 season. Do you know who ended that streak?
I'm going to say it's not the Suns.
No, that was not one of the Suns ones.
Right. Was it the Bulls?
It was the Bulls.
Yeah.
And Tom Thibodeau coaching one Nate Robinson to quite the game off the bench. Yeah. So I also thought that was interesting with the Bulls coming up this week. Obviously, Tibbs' former team. We hope they win both of those games. That said, the only thing I want to ask you here, because I could see a narrative developing like, okay, the Knicks have won 9 in a row, but this is the first like quote unquote real team they've played. And if you look through the season and you look at the teams with the top net ratings in the league, they have a victory over Utah when Austin Rivers went crazy, and they have a victory over a fully healthy Bucks team that was the third game of the season where they hit 1,000,000 threes and the Bucks couldn't hit anything. I don't think they beat another one of those like upper echelon teams other than those 2 games. Unless am I forgetting anything?
The Lakers, but that
injured. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Do you think that is a valid? I haven't heard anybody say it yet, but I imagine we might hear it before tomorrow's game. Do you think that's a valid narrative? Like this is a huge game because like they haven't beat one of these teams yet?
I have actually seen that narrative.
Oh, you have? Okay. I haven't.
Yes. But again, the Knicks have also played 4 playoff teams and won. They have. I mean, no one's talking about the Wizards because no one gives a shit about the Wizards, but the Wizards have won 7 in a row. Their first win was against Utah in Utah. Very impressive. Yeah. Since then, all the teams that they have played, to my knowledge, are all out of the playoff picture.
That's correct. I think they played today, if I recall.
They do. They play the Cavs today.
So, is it the Cavs? Okay.
Yes. So there's, win number 8 would be against another non-playoff team. And, they don't control the schedule. They play who's on the docket and they go from there. But I do think that with the Knicks and the Suns, even if the Knicks win against the Suns, there could still be this idea of, well, the Suns played the Nets and so they're tired. And, if the Knicks played a fresh Suns team, then it'd be different. And again, it's moving goalposts. But I think that there's nothing wrong with having your streak be snapped by the second best team in the NBA. That to me would be understandable. I don't think that the Knicks have anything to prove by, I'll put it this way. If the Knicks lose, it's not a big deal. If they win, it's just, I guess I'll say it, another notch in the bedpost, so to speak.
It's not so to speak. It's just,
yeah, it is. Actually, the notch actually does apply. Yeah, it's a notch. No belts, just the bedpost. So, I think it's important for the Knicks to win that game, but if they lose, it's just, this was a great streak, productive. Clearly the Knicks are in the playoff picture more to the point where they were supposed to. And there's even a chance by the time we speak next, where the Knicks have clinched at least play-in spot. I think the magic number might be 3.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. And if they beat the Bulls, then that would basically knock off 2 of them. So it's going to be a fascinating week, and it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Yeah.
the only other opinion I wanted to get of yours is I have found myself, like I put out a Twitter poll and it was, I think, close to 50-50 the other day for the Hawks Heat game about who people were rooting for. And I was surprised it was 50-50 because for me, the team that I'm by far the most worried about in terms of taking either like one our it is ours, our top 6 seed is the Heat. Are you like rooting against any? Are you rooting against Boston? Or are you like where are you? Do you have any particular rooting interests at this point?
I'm rooting against Atlanta from a financial interest.
Look at you,
I did bet Hawks under 36.5 for the year. Knicks hit, Hornets
bet,
hit.
by the way.
Thank you. At least I thought so, but clearly
it was my safest Eastern Conference over under bet in my opinion, on the board. I thought it was smart.
I just thought all the offense, none of the defense, or like that would work out. But they've done a great job, and they'll probably just wind up screwing me over. Which whatever, that's okay. But I'm more, if they're going to surpass that bet, which I expect them to do, I would like to play Atlanta because I think it'd just be a really fun series to begin with. It would be fun. I also think that this whole idea of the Knicks beating the Hawks, if Trae Young were still playing, the game would have been over. Like, all of what Atlanta does is their entire existence is based on what ifs. So I really don't give a crap about what Atlanta fans have to think about if Trae Young were in the game, because we also know that the Knicks beat the Hawks twice this year already without Trae Young. They have I think since he's been drafted, they've been like 7-2 against the Hawks.
Well, with Trae Young, you mean?
Right. With Trae Young. So, whatever. Good for you, Atlanta. But I would love to play them because I think it would just be a very fun series and that both have similar storylines. And it would just, I also think that from a victory standpoint, I think the Hawks scare me the least in that Trae Young has never played in playoff basketball, and a lot of other Knicks haven't either. But in terms of how different regular season versus the playoffs can be, kind of just attacking the point guard and making Trae Young work harder, I think that would, kind of trouble him more than say we're facing Jason Tatum for the first time in playoff, his career from the playoffs, but he certainly has that experience.
He has had a lot of experience.
Jimmy Butler, who has plenty of experience. And the Heat just went to the finals, even if the bubble was maybe an anomaly. So I would like to play the Hawks. That would just be fun in general, but I think that they would certainly have a leg up in that competition.
I mean, at this point, I just want to get a top 6 seed because I'm that's all I want. So that's why I'm rooting against the Heat, because I still believe in the Heat as far as them being able to put it together. Maybe famous last words. Okay, moving right along. Let's do a quick. And the magic number is indeed 3. Thank you, Andrew Claudio. Progress report. I drank all my beer. Well, actually, no. There's a little. I'm pouring one out. If you can't see this, I'm pouring one out for Miles Powell and Jared Harper. We hardly knew you. So the Knicks made some moves this week, which Jeremy, again, because he's an insane person like me, was texting me about what time last, I don't even know, to clarify. So Miles, let's get the order right. Jared Harper was converted to a full 10-day contract. They had one slot left. He was then immediately, they already waived him, right?
Harper?
Yeah.
No, Harper's still on the team.
So Harper is now, he occupies the last, because it's a 10-day.
So Henson went out. Harper came in.
Yes, Harper
and there was
took
a two-way
Henson's
slot that was open,
which they then gave to Miles Powell, and then Miles Powell was immediately waived.
Right.
So it was basically a way to make some money for Harper gets paid more now on an NBA deal. It's only a 10-day, but it's something. And then Miles Powell makes more than he was making under. He signed a two-way with the Bucks, so This is his second two-way contract, but it does give him more money.
I thought I had read somewhere that he was supposed to, but then didn't wind up signing it.
Didn't. Oh, okay.
If that's the case, so I'm pretty sure.
Either way, the guy gets paid.
He does, but because the way that it used to work with the two-way is you get paid for the amount of time you spend on the team.
Yes.
But I think that due to COVID, they have changed that in the bubble.
They did.
So now if you sign, it's not like you just it's basically you just sign, you get a paycheck the entire year.
Yes.
To my knowledge. So that would mean that the Knicks are, and this isn't out of cap space. I just want to remind people, this is completely different, a separate pool of money, but they're basically giving Miles Powell $445,000 just to sign and go.
Just like, as a solid. That's literally what they did here.
And that's where the confusion with Semi Shitu was in terms of.
So I don't know how. I got to ask him about this. How he's because there's no other way for them to sign. Is it Shitu, right?
I believe so.
He was
Ian clarified though. He
did clarify, but he still sounded uncertain about it. Whether it was a 10-day or a 2-way, but there's no other open roster spot, so it has to be a 2-way. Which again, that seems to be the reporting at this point. He's someone that I don't know a lot about him. I'll be honest. Someone who spent a lot of the year in Westchester. Again, it seems like it's just doing a solid for a guy who the organization likes. I would not expect Harper or maybe Powell. We'll see. But I wouldn't expect Harper or Shitu or anything to be in their plans moving forward. Anything else we need to say on any of that you want? I'm sure there's something I've forgotten cap wise or no.
I'm just so the Knicks are still under the salary floor.
Yes, they are.
They did since we last spoke as well. They signed Norvel Pell.
Sorry, I forgot.
To a contract, and the way it works is that it's $500,000 or so this year, so that's great for him. And then next year it is a team option, and the final year is non-guaranteed. So it's 1.7 million next year, and then the following year, is 1.8.
And I think next year is a small partial guarantee.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So and next, I expect him to. I mean, he could be back, and it really wouldn't affect the Knicks' plans anyway, because of how much cap space the Knicks project to have. But it lines up with the idea as well of the Knicks are still going to be focused on that 2022 class. That to me is basically what it kind of screams, and that we'll give you money next year, even if it's a partial guarantee, because why not? But we're going to try to maximize everything we can do for 2022.
And for anybody wondering, is like, okay, so they wanted to do a solid for Harper by signing into a 10-day and getting more money. I believe they can still, once that 10-day expires, still use that on somebody else. So I don't think the ship has sailed on them potentially adding someone else to their roster, and who knows, maybe signing that person to a multi-year deal. So we'll see where that comes to play. Okay, let's do a quick progress report. I feel like we've talked a lot about RJ Barrett all year. So hey, guess what? RJ Barrett's still really good. He had a really good week. He continues to have really good weeks. He's fantastic. I don't know what. We don't need to talk about RJ Barrett right now. Emmanuel quickly, I do want to acknowledge, was absolutely in a rut for a period of time there and has come out of that rut. So he that's great to see, because sometimes when you hit the rookie wall, you don't always you're not always able to bust through it, but he seems to have done that. And that's awesome, because they're not going to be able to do what they, I think, would like to do in the playoffs without him. So shout out to Emmanuel quickly. Let's talk about Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin. Are you happy? Were you happy to see Obi Toppin hit some threes yesterday, Jeremy?
I wasn't just excited about it. I was thrilled that 2 of them were corner threes, John. He's hitting corner threes now.
2 corner threes. Does that account for half? I'm going to look it up right now. I feel like it accounts for half his total on the year. I'll look it up. I'll get it.
It's definitely close. But yeah, one of the things I was thinking as Obi hit both of those threes was, I'm really curious how much of the Knicks' new tracking system, Noah, how much that has impacted them.
He's hit 6 all year, so that was a third of his corner threes. Yeah.
But you know how they're basically trying to invest into how the launch angle and repetition, and it tells you, for those who maybe aren't as familiar, the Knicks purchased a subscription or partnering with a team that tracks shooting, so it helps get their form down. Because if you continue to get your form down, practice makes perfect, and you start to see success like yesterday, or as we're recording this, with Obi Toppin. So I'm curious as to if he has gotten into a rhythm where now the stroke feels more comfortable and he can kind of continue with that. But, that game, or the fact that he had a really awesome post up against the Hornets. He's really not playing a ton of minutes, but his defense too. He has been active with his hands. His offensive rebounding has been nice to see. There was like a really nice second jump that he had in one of those games where he just kind of obliterated the competition around him. So he's making those strides. Again, he just needs time. He's a late bloomer. So I think that's just all we have to give him. And he's trending in the right direction.
He is trending in the right direction. And it's going to be, it's going to be very interesting because they're going to go to the playoffs at this rate. And we haven't talked about Elfrid Payton in this episode. And I quite frankly don't want to talk about Elfrid Payton this episode.
I did, and I'm done. That once was enough.
Okay. Can I give you one? I was going to save it for the newsletter, but I'll give it to you now. They are during this winning streak. So just during the last 9 games, they're getting outscored by, I don't have it in front of me, but I looked it up before, so I know this is accurate. It's like 4-point-something points per 100 possessions with him on the floor during the winning streak. They've not lost a game, and they are getting outscored by over 4 points per 100 possessions with him on the floor. And then without him on the floor, they're have a scoring margin that's like better than any team in the NBA. So, but again, he was at that dinner with Leon and Wes and Aaron Mintz. Aaron Mintz, wherever you are out there, Aaron Mintz, you deserve a fucking just a medal and a statue in your honor for what you have done for your client. Because my God, just starting point guard for a team on a 9-game winning streak. Give it up for Aaron Mintz, ladies and gentlemen. Okay,
that's the Mintz guarantee.
The Mintz
or Mintz condition, either one, whichever you want.
That's it requires another one. Oh, you just brought the A game. It's just there's no C, there's no B, no B plus, no A minus. It's just A. It's just A with Jeremy Cohen.
Again, this is what a 9-game win streak does to people. But just as an offshoot question for you, John, because this is something I've been thinking about. Yes. And I'm sure we could get into this more later on. But as I see the Knicks percolating for these 9 games, the majority of which are not with Alec Burks. Where are you in terms of moving forward? And again, I don't want to talk too much about that because we've got a whole off season. Yeah. I want to live in the now, but I couldn't help but just it popped into my mind of, if they're able to accomplish this with all of these guys buying in, and Alec Burks was there for the beginning of the streak for sure, but how much of a necessity is maybe having him stick around? What does he contribute? And is it to the point where the Knicks, need to retain him?
I would love to look. I want to bring back this whole team. Here's what I want to do. I want to bring back the whole team, and I want to replace Elfrid Payton with Chris Paul or Kyle Lowry. That's what I want to do. Or I mean, if I'm dreaming, then I would love to somehow trade for Jalen Suggs out of the draft, but I don't think that's happening. And then we just have a dynasty for the next 10 years. So here's what I think is interesting as we're talking about quickly having some good games of late, have been without Burks. And this is, again, another point that was raised on the locker room on Saturday, where we always get great questions. Is Quickly's kind of reemergence have anything to do with the fact that the ball's in his hands more because Burks isn't in the second unit? And moving forward, if we assume a couple things, if we assume that Rose is going to be back, Rose will continue to come off the bench. Quickly's going to continue to come off the bench. And Quickly's going to get better, significantly better, potentially. As a shot creator, as a facilitator, then do you need Burks as much? Do you maybe start Burks? Like, I think it's an interesting issue. I don't know. They're feeling so good right now, but I still have the fear moving forward this season that when the offense gets in a rut, like that dude is he's good for a bucket sometimes. When Randle seems like he's tiring maybe in the fourth quarter, and he's still hit more big baskets than anyone on the team this year. So to just say like, we don't need that guy back. I'm not there yet, but I think it's a great point, and it's something to think about moving forward. And I do hope he gets back soon. Okay. Predictions and then producer corner. Then we're out here. Okay. So we have 3 games to predict, or 2 games. Andrew, chime in here. What are we predicting?
Andrew's on mute.
Oh, Andrew's on mute.
1 second.
Oh, he's giving.
I'm giving the play-by-play. It's very exciting stuff.
This is right. I mean, if you could be here for our Zoom calls, this would be so exciting.
Hi guys.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi. I'll actually defer to Jeremy on this. Do you want to predict all 3, or should we just predict 2 this week?
It really depends on if we are recording after the Rockets game or not.
Predict all three. Well, no, because then I think next week's game will count toward next week's predictions. All of the games that I put into the rundown for the upcoming games on the schedule before Sunday. So let's
predict two.
This basically determines how much faith you have in this team. Will they be on an 11-game winning streak when we record next?
Who goes first?
Oh, it is definitely me, the person who predicted 3-0, John.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're listening to this and you're standing, I request that you please sit down. Okay, now I'm going to assume you are seated. If you are physically able to stand, please stand up and give me a round of applause for predicting a 3-0, going against the odds.
I'm not giving you a round of applause. I've given you 2 rounds of applause today. You're not getting another one.
Well, I mean, the rule of 3 would indicate that, John, you kind of have to give me the third.
I'll give you one right here.
All right, that is not a clap, but I will take it, I guess. Man, this is hard. Yes, if we're gonna do predictions for 2 of these games, you know what? I'm just gonna keep it rolling. I'm gonna keep it rolling and say 2-0 because even if I know that the streak may end, it has, nevertheless, it has persisted. So I'm going to say 2-0 and hope for the best. That opens the door for you, John.
That makes life easy for me. I'm going to go with 1-1. There we go. Andrew Claudio.
I stand by they're going 11-3 down the stretch, and even more so, I might change that to 14-0 at this point.
They went into the fucking play.
Don't you touch that hoodie.
Dog.
Oh, man. Okay.
Bro, I went and bought a new one. Check it out. Knicks Film School merch store. Also, we have a bunch of other options.
We have a lot of good stuff. Go check it out.
If we have 4 days where the Knicks don't play a game and they're on an 11-game winning streak, you better believe we're pushing some stuff. Anyway, Producer's Corner. Ladies and gentlemen, today is not just an off day for the New York Knicks, who are being brought up in multiple awards conversations in the NBA, but it is Hollywood's biggest night. Out in Los Angeles, the 93rd Academy Awards will take place both at Union Station and the Dolby Theater and at multiple satellite locations around the world. First off, are you guys excited? Jeremy, how many of the movies have you seen that are nominated for Best Picture?
I've seen most of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I just saw Minari the other day.
Are you rooting for one in particular?
I really don't care. Yeah, again, for some reason, I'm just not really in it this year, I guess.
No. Is there because there's no Shape of Water this year? I guess
that's exactly it. There is no Shape of Water, and it's disappointing because I like my movies freaky, and really there aren't Best Picture movies that are like that.
Do you after the Knicks win a game now? Do you just turn on Shape of Water and that's how you celebrate?
No, I actually don't even watch the games. I just watch Shape of Water.
You just watch Shape of Water. Okay.
Yeah, and I kind of I'll just follow the game on my phone to figure out who won.
Oh,
but
God.
Usually it interrupts one of the crucial plot points. So I'm just like, okay.
When the fish man is having sex with the woman.
That is the exact moment where I'm just like, all right, the
points.
Knicks can wait. I'll just wait until after this sensuous moment, and we'll find out if they won or not afterwards.
It's a good decision.
It's
okay. Anyway,
still, we've disagreed on things in the past. This is still your worst take.
It's fine.
Take a Shape of Water beat Get Out.
I would say for this year, the film I'm rooting for the most would be Judas and the Black Messiah. I think that was my favorite. I really liked Promising Young Woman. Minari, like I said, was great. So I think those might be my 3 favorite of the year.
Okay.
But I don't even, is Promising Young Woman even nominated for
Yes,
Best?
for Best Picture, Director,
indeed.
Screenplay, probably going to win for Actress.
according to Bernard, who knows a lot about this stuff, it is the talk about MVP candidates of the movies that can realistically win Best Picture. It's the longest shot, but he feels like it has a chance.
So it's the longest shot of the possible shots. So it's certainly 4th in the Vegas odds. It goes Nomadland, a heavy favorite, Trial of Chicago 7, Minari, and Promising Young Woman.
I did love Trial of Chicago 7. And Nomadland, I don't know. I need to give it another try.
Of course you love Trial of Chicago 7.
Wow.
Basically, if you've been in a courtroom, you hate
okay.
it. Yes.
Or I didn't list it in my top 3.
That's fair. Listen, I will not. We don't have to relitigate this.
No, we don't.
Didn't relitigate anything in that movie. Anyway, the point of this Producer's Corner is because of an awards theme I came up with. I went looking through all of the awards since the Knicks are currently being brought up in the NBA awards. MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man. The only of these 5 awards, the only one that the Knicks don't have a current top 10 Vegas odds finalist, which is Defensive Player of the Year. Do you know who has the best odds right now on the Knicks? If you had to guess.
Wait, there is a Nick who has odds for Defensive Player of the Year?
Yes. Well, so like they're long shots, but do you know who has who would be the highest Nick?
I'm guessing Noel.
No, it's Mitchell Robinson at 500,000 to 1 or 50,000 to 1.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Okay.
He's tied with Kristaps Porzingis, by the way. Should tell you a lot about how the mighty have fallen out there.
Yeah.
I thought I would go through all of NBA history and see if you guys knew how many Knicks have actually won these awards. There have been 10 Knicks that have won in any of these categories. So there's been 1 MVP, 1 Defensive Player of the Year, 2 Coaches of the Year, 3 Rookies of the Year, and 3 Sixth Men. So,
all right. The 6 men was just a trivia question.
Yes. So we'll go back and forth.
Okay.
It was just a trivia question?
It was a trivia question the other night. So,
all right. Then just
we can start.
We can do it. That's
go
fine.
back and forth. Jeremy, you go first.
You go first.
For the 6 man, I mean, what'd they say? It was.
Name one.
Name one, then we go back and forth.
Oh, I see. All right. Mason.
That's correct. 1995 Sixth Man of the Year.
Starks. I might get the year wrong though. 98.
97, but I'll give it to you.
Okay.
J.R. Smith.
There you go. 2013.
I'll do MVP. Willis Reed.
Willis Reed, 1970 MVP.
Defensive player was it Ewing?
Oh, come on.
You are out.
Don't throw us off the rails already.
Wait, are you being serious?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Jeremy's
what he meant to say was, I want the game to keep going. So what he meant to say was,
we're just ending at that?
No. Just whoever gets one wrong, you're out. So John.
All right. Well,
I wanted to keep. I mean,
John certainly has the advantage of living through it, but that's why
you lived through it too.
It's Tyson Chandler.
Oh, that's right. I did. Actually, I was born in 2013.
Okay, Chris.
So.
All right, so we named 3 6 men MVP.
It's 2 coaches and 3 rookies.
Okay, so I'll go rookie and say Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson, 1988. Jeremy, I'll let you back in.
Oh, thank you. I don't feel good.
I don't know if he wants to be back in. Do a coach of the year.
I was gonna say coach of the year, but then I'm like, oh crap. Pat Riley.
Pat Riley, 1993 Coach of the Year.
He was 93 Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Okay.
First year.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Second year. Regardless.
What do we?
I'll say Ewing for Rookie of the Year.
Ewing for Rookie of the Year, 1986. You have 1 Coach of the Year, 1 Rookie. Oh, and that's it. One Coach of the Year, 1 Rookie of the Year.
I don't know either of these off the top of my head, but I have guesses for both. Jeremy, do you know either of these?
Well, considering I just thought Patrick Ewing had won a Defensive Player of the Year award over Tyson Chandler, the odds are going to be slimmer for me. But man, I mean, one of them I want to say. Part of me wants to say Strickland.
No,
but I
no.
That's why I'm thinking it's not.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Is the Rookie of the Year a way back in the day guy?
Yes.
Is it Willis Reed?
Yes.
Okay.
Willis Reed, 1965 Rookie of the Year.
And I'm going to guess for Coach of the Year, it's got to be either Patino or UB Brown.
Incorrect. It is Red Holtzman.
Red Holtzman won a Coach of the Year award?
1970 Coach of the Year.
Oh, wow. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was one of the guys in the 80s. And
so if the Knicks finish the season on a 20-game winning streak, and all of a sudden the awards start to turn in their favor, you might see Julius Randle win Most Improved. Derrick Rose now has the 4th best odds for 6th Man of the Year. Manuel Quickley, I doubt he can get into Rookie of the Year as a front runner, but he's currently still number 4 in Rookie of the Year odds. And then Julius Randle currently 9th in MVP voting. Whether that matters at the end of the day, he'll probably get some 5th place votes, I would imagine. It's an exciting time for the New York Knicks, especially when it comes to recognition. So just to put a cap on Jeremy's thought from before, Patrick Ewing finished 6th in Defensive Player of the Year voting in 1988-89.
and he was second team 2 other times. I mean, it's not that insane. Like, you should know that he never won it, but he was tied for 5th the year before that. And then in one other year, he got some votes. And then we'll get out of here. They don't show the voting for that year. That's not okay. Oh wait, no, sorry. No, I'm looking at 1982. I know this is scintillating podcasting here. In 1991-92, he finished. No, I must be looking at the wrong year. Hold on, we're gonna get there, guys. Don't worry. Okay, never mind. I can't find it. I'm an idiot.
But I remember, Jeremy, if I can also contribute to the old man reminisces about the 90s. He, just like all NBA, because he was played in the same time.
7th, tied for 7th.
Olajuwon and Shaq and Robinson,
right? Always
ended up falling 3rd or 4th. And with defense, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Olajuwon, all these other defensive studs, and just kept getting overlooked, like the national media has always done with the New York Knicks.
Yeah, I thought there was maybe one season where he broke through. But I think that's my new shtick. Whenever I get something wrong, it's not that I am wrong about it. It's that I was too young. Like, something could have happened 3 weeks ago and I'd be like, well, I wasn't born then. So that's just the way it goes.
It's all right. Yeah. At least you knew who Gunna was.
Yes.
Here's the last thing I'll say, just because I'm now scrolling through Basketball Reference. I do think no, it's not a rabbit hole. Just very, very, very briefly. So for anybody who didn't hear yesterday after the game, Tibbs put Julius Randle in the same sentence as Patrick Ewing, not as players. He was specific. He said as far as work ethic and leadership was also mentioned. Patrick Ewing never finished top 3 in the MVP voting. He finished 4th 3 times in 1988, 89, 92, 93, and then 94, 95, which was interesting. Did not finish in the top, even in the top 4 in 93, 94, which is when he took that team to the finals. Interesting enough. I don't think it's insane that Julius Randle could finish 4th in the MVP voting this year.
Ooh.
4th.
Melo finished 3rd. So since Willis Reed, the highest ever. Actually, no, that may be a lie because I think Bernard King may have finished 2nd. I'm going to look that up. But Melo finished 3rd. Ewing finished 4th 3 times. I think there is a world where after Jokic, after Embiid, and after, no, I guess not, because he would have to beat out Curry and one. Giannis. He would have to beat out one of Curry, Giannis, or Embiid. Can he finish 5th? Can he beat out Luka?
I don't think he'll get enough votes.
Yeah.
He could beat out Dame.
I think he'll get votes. I don't think he'll get enough votes to.
I don't think. Listen, I'm just if they to your insanity world, Claudio, where they end the season, whatever, they lose like 3 more games the rest of the year, or 2 more games the rest of the year, and they finish running away with the 4th seed, and he continues doing what he's doing.
In insanity world, yes. If they finish the season 43 and
like Harden misses a bunch more games, and like Kawhi keeps missing games, and like all of the LeBron misses a bunch more games, like 5th,
it would be 5th is what
it would be 5th because he's not beating out
Curry,
Giannis,
or Embiid. I think are top 4.
And just for perspective, I know that I had talked about since the Rose trade, since that date as well, the Warriors have had the 23rd best offense with Stephen Curry. So just to kind of like think about how good Curry has been, their offense is dog shit, and that's including him. So just, Randle obviously deserves to be, again, in that conversation, but what Curry has done has just been otherworldly. And I can't wait to see them do it together in New York in 2 years.
I was about to say next year is going to be fun. Yes, Bernard King did finish 2nd in the MVP voting in 1983-84. To the gentleman by the name of Larry Bird.
Larry Bird, okay.
And one spot ahead of Magic Johnson. Magic and Kareem, both Lakers, 3rd and 4th that year.
Welcome to the 80s. The whole 80s was the Los Angeles Lakers Invitational.
Yeah, but that's pretty crazy. Two guys finished in the top 4 of the MVP voting from the same team.
I think back then everybody just assumed we put the Lakers in and then fill out the rest of your ballot. I'm not even shitting on it. I'm just saying that's how the 80s went.
It's great.
Also, don't forget, there were fewer teams, and the parody maybe wasn't great. So
do you know who Magic Johnson is?
Like we
Jeremy,
see
or were you not born yet?
I don't know Magic Johnson actually, but
imagine Julius Randle, except not as good.
Oh,
the owner of the Dodgers, Jeremy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
He used to own some movie theater chains as well. Does he still own those movie theater chains? I should know that.
Well, if at post-pandemic, I don't know if anybody's owning a movie theater chain.
Okay. This was Jeremy. Anything for you before we get out of here?
I think that's all for this week.
I think we're good. I'm gonna go. I hope when you're listening to this, Promising Young Woman has pulled off the upset because I really enjoyed that movie. Andrew, anything before we go?
Enjoy the Oscars. I am rooting hard for not that, but for an interesting show is what I'm saying. Enjoy the Oscars, guys.
Enjoy the Oscars. All right. Yeah. And everybody out there, thank you for listening to another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. We will be back with you another episode, as always, this Wednesday. But until then, enjoy your week and let's go Knicks.